Hello and welcome to CIS1300. Today I'll be talking about the third and final version of your resume project. Once again, remember, I'm not looking for actual resume content in there. You can make stuff up, that's perfectly fine. But if you do want to put real stuff in there because this is something you can use when you leave the class, I'm all for that. That's kind of the purpose of this. So let's get started. First and foremost, I want the assignment to be a single index.html file. So the purpose for that is listed below here. The idea is you can email this single file in the future. So you can't have your style sheet be a separate page. You can't have your images be separate either. You'll have to host your images somewhere online, GitHub, Imgur, what have you. They need to be public. If you're hosting it on GitHub, surprise, you're turning it in on GitHub, so yes, it can actually be there. But if you want to go the extra mile and put it on Imgur or some other host, so you can practice that, go ahead and do that. Remember, your image files have to have a full URL in order to be accessed in either case. So if they're at GitHub, that's fine, but it has to be https:// yada yada, the full URL, because people are going to access these locally on their computers when you email them. Don't email it to submit, but make sure that it works as a single file. Okay, so CSS can't be different, images can't be different. There's no JavaScript in this project. JavaScript would get stripped out from email anyway in most email accounts. The only other alternative would be to zip it and email it, which is not a big deal, but less convenient than just emailing the flat file. Okay, so let's look at the requirements. I want you to have these media queries in there, and I've listed all the media queries that you'll need. I put the single value ones first and then the double value ones later. You can put them in the order where the double ones are placed in their spots where they make sense. That's where I did mine. But for listing purposes, I put the double ones second, the ones that are in between two values. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 media queries. I want you to build this design from smallest to largest, so you can skip doing anything for this first media query, the smallest one, because your normal CSS is all the rules, all the styles are going to be for that size anyway, for all sizes, and then that size is the default size, So you can skip a specific media query for that. Make sure that you're adjusting at minimum one CSS rule for all of the sizes. Some sizes are more or less important depending on the design that you've gone with. Some sizes are going to have much more changes than other sizes, other media queries. But put one in each one. It doesn't have to be a big one. Just put one that's kind of noticeable. Maybe it's a margin change or something. That's what I did on some of the ones for my example that I'll show you. I just changed the margin for some spacing. Okay, you can certainly do that. At least one rule. If you only change one rule in all of them, it's not going to be a very good assignment in the end. You'll need to change quite a few things for at least one size, either the 900 or the 1200 pixel and above media query. You'll need to change from a totally vertical mobile layout to a larger desktop layout. Moving along, so continue to have the same sections that we've had before, a header section with your name, and that's where you'll put your logo, a skills section, experience, education, and a footer with a little copyright in it, and then some various spacer elements in between them. The spacer elements are up to you, how you want them to be visually, how you want them to be. whether they're going to be an image or something else. In my case, I used a horizontal rule, but then I stylized it so that it's 2 sections of a line with a gap in the middle and a couple of slashes in there. You don't have to do mine. It's fairly advanced stylizing in there. You can do something else in there as well. Also, keep your previous stuff in there. So keep that special color idea that's in there as well. Okay. At least one image. Make sure that your images have some sort of a fallback. We talked about that in the week about accessibility. In the event that you do use this in the future, you email it to somebody and they open it up and the image doesn't load properly for whatever reason. Maybe it doesn't exist anymore. Maybe there's a typo. Maybe their thing is not opening up external files for some reason. Make sure there's something in its place that shows up properly, not just a broken image link. Okay. And then we went over the last of it already. So here is the picture of my example. And then I'm going to switch over to actually show the example. So here it is. I have my browser in responsive design mode. So I'm at about 500 pixel width. Excuse me. This is the mobile size. It's zoomed up a little bit, I suppose. But everything is centered and 100% wide, or just under 100% wide. I know phones are moving towards having that 0 bezel on there, but not everybody has a phone that's like that. And even if it does, if you have your phone case, it's really hard to touch the edge. So on the mobile designs, I like to keep just a little bit of space on the edge because it is very hard to tap and click anything that appears on the edge. Okay. And phone cases tend to cover up a little bit, or makes at least block things physically, maybe not visually. But keep a little bit of space in there to make it look a little bit more presentable. So here it is in mobile size, 599 and below. And then as I move up to 600, you'll see that the header changes a little bit. Most of my changes in this are going to be in the header. And then at that one size where it fully changes from mobile to desktop, I'm going to change the main area as well. So most of these are in the header. So from below 599 to above 599. Oops, I went too far. So name is still centered. These are now centered side by side where they were one above the other. So they go side by side. And then as this grows to above 700, is that one of my sizes here? Let me just double check what indeed are my sizes. 700, not a size. 900 is the next size, excuse me. All right, so 6 to 9. That's a big growth right there. Okay. Excuse me. So big header change anyway. Everything was kind of stacked originally. And then the smaller items go side by side first. And then when there's much more room, even the larger items go side by side. Okay, so that's at the 900. So this is going to be the tablet landscape and up, or tablet landscape only. There are a couple of style changes in both of them, and you can see right around here in the name and address section, it does change a little bit in there as it grows. Okay. All right, and then starting at the 1200 breakpoint, that is where the big mobile desktop size layout changes. So my spacer, I've had to hide one of my spacers because otherwise they'd be duplicated. Okay, so there's a spacer above skills and above experience before on the smaller size. And then when they swap out, there's one spacer that's above both of them, so I've had to hide one of them. And then the skills being on the side, I put just a small divider in there with some padding around so that the lines never actually touch. Okay. Keep everything very open. Mine just kind of looks like it was maybe drawn on paper with nice handwriting, which I don't actually have. Okay, and then the 1800 pixel is the largest screen size change. And the only change I did in that one is a font change for the title, for the name. Okay, that's the only change I did in there. So that is the only screen size where, I'd actually changed a little bit of a margin as well. Very minimal changes on that one. The 1200 pixels and up has, for me, that's the largest change. That's where I changed fully on there. I also had to change these list items in here. There were 3 across, and then as it grows, they're all vertical. So I changed the width of each of those from being a 33% width, which gives me 3 columns, to 100% width, which forces them all to be above and below each other in one column. Okay. Let's look back over here, see if I forgot anything. I think I touched on all of those. Again, make sure that you're changing things in here that makes sense. You're not just putting changes in there for the sake of having changes. I know I want you to have at least one change in every media query, but those changes still should make some kind of sense. So on mine, where I didn't have the need for any big changes, I just changed some very small margining and positioning things in the header. That's where I kind of focused my fluff changes, the ones that weren't all that important, right? So if you're struggling to come up with a change, just do a little bit of a margining change on something. You shouldn't have, like the media query homework assignment with a big red and green color change. You should not have a change like that in this assignment. This one, ideally, when it's finished, it should be, with the exception of maybe if you put fake content in there. Other than that, this should be something that you could submit as an actual resume if you chose to do so. I know not everybody is keen on using an HTML file, but if you're giving a resume to a company for web design, web development work, and you submit it in an HTML file, they'll go, oh, okay, this person is really dedicated to the web. So there you go. So that's this assignment. And if you have any questions, please post them either below this video or in Blackboard, or you can email me directly. If you do email me, remember to use your COD email because of school privacy rules and that. If you use your personal email, there may be some questions of yours that I can't answer. So just use your COD email for that. Otherwise, have fun in this assignment. Enjoy the rest of your spring semester.